Right now on the National Weather Desk, breaking overnight. Right now on the National Weather Desk, breaking overnight. Tornadoes touched down in Oklahoma, causing widespread damage.
You can see these cars flipped on top of each other.
The same system brought relentless and blinding winds to the Texas Panhandle and Kansas, while in California, a powerful winter storm drops feet of snow while setting off floods and rock slides.
What was an extreme drought a couple of years ago is now becoming extreme wet season.
We'll see how the weather is impacting this year's blue-bonnet bloom in Texas.
Late February, a little bit early to start to see these flowers popping up across our area.
And how some honey could offer relief during this year's allergy season.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. We start today in Oklahoma, where it was a scary scene overnight as multiple tornado sightings were reported. You're looking at video from the town of Willow near the Oklahoma-Texas border as the storm moved in. Right now, tornado watches and warnings are still in effect. The wind, you can hear it, is whipping. Wind gusts ranging from 70 to 90 miles per hour. Tornadoes took down trees, power lines, and damaged homes, but no injuries have been reported. And in Norman, this was the scene after severe storms and tornadoes passed through Sunday night. There are no reports of any deaths. Fortunately, city officials say 12 people went to the hospital, but all are expected to be okay. Several homes and cars are in bad shape, though, severely damaged. Reporter Jameson Kiefover is in Normal this morning.
And now that the sun is up, I've been able to walk around this neighborhood and see exactly what kind of damage has occurred. This definitely seems to be the worst of it, though, from what we're seeing in these few blocks. So we are just northeast of Highway 9 and 24th Avenue, but you can see what used to be a garage there. You can still see kind of remnants of people's lives with their boxing equipment inside of there. We've seen toys all thrown about, but now we're seeing shredded trash cans, shredded clothes, things everywhere. And that's just showing how intense this storm was. And then if we're looking here, you can see these cars flipped on top of each other. So you can see that red Jeep flipped on top of another car. All of these windows either blown out or busted out by debris. So this is going to take a long time to pick up from. And all across the street, you're seeing insulation. You're also seeing wood. So this is a problem. Even if you only got a little bit of damage, it's going to take a long time to pick up around people's houses.
And a line of storms and windy weather walloped the Texas Panhandle and eastern New Mexico Sunday as well. Wind gusts were pretty strong, up to around 70 miles per hour, kicking up dust, reducing visibility, toppling trees, and knocking out power to thousands of people. A couple of local school districts even were forced to close. The same powerful system blew through parts of Kansas, bringing thunderstorms and possible tornadoes. The storms racing through the city of Liberal in the southwestern part of the state. About 10 mobile homes were damaged. At least one person was hurt from flying glass. The storms left around a dozen families homeless. Now, forecasters say the storms packed winds up to 90 miles per hour and produced hail the size of mothballs. Over the weekend, California saw a powerful winter storm that brought frigid temperatures, flooding, and even snow in low-lying areas around L.A. The National Weather Service said it was one of the strongest storms to ever hit southwest California, producing damage and setting off scenes like this one right here, a rock slide down a snowy and steep hillside in the Los Padres National Forest. I-5 is finally back open this morning after it was closed, but other roads are still blocked off in the mountains east of L.A. At this point, it isn't known when they will even reopen. Meanwhile, a woman who lives in the mountains 60 miles north of Los Angeles has been unable to leave her home for days now due to all of that heavy snow that fell. There appears to be a load of snow on her deck and right there, even outside of her fence. And further south along I-5 northwest of L.A., the startling view from Valencia, at least 3 motorhomes were swept away from an RV park into a river. You can see how rushing waters from the Santa Clara River was washed out portions of the embankment during the winter storm. You can see it there. The RV park lost water and even power, but no injuries were reported. For more on the effects of the storm, we turn now to Sophia Lesios in Fresno, California.
Rain, snow, blizzards, and flooding, even a tornado touching down in California.
Some of that heavy rain that we're seeing could be detrimental, actually, instead of helpful.
According to the National Weather Service Hanford, the valley floor received 2.7 inches of rain on Friday alone. That amount breaking an all-time record rainfall from 1899. From rain to snow, fresh powder scattered all across the state. Shaver Lake looking like a winter wonderland with ankle-deep snow. China Peak, typically packed at this time of the season, virtually empty as roads remain closed. In eastern California, Mammoth Mountain is holding one of the largest amounts of snowpack in the U.S., according to the National Weather Service, sitting at nearly 600 inches at the summit. Snow plows are barely seen here in whiteout conditions. Road closures were seen everywhere across the state, including the Grapevine, closed again due to continuous snow and icy conditions on the 5 freeway. Closer to home, flooding was seen everywhere.
What was an extreme drought a couple of years ago is now becoming an extreme wet season.
In weather like this, the National Weather Service advises everyone to hunker down. Like this eagle, seen sitting in a snowstorm on Big Bear Mountain.
Many people in Michigan are still without power today, 6 days after an ice storm knocked out power. As of this morning, 130,000 power customers are still in the dark, mostly in southern Michigan. Unfortunately for them, more winter weather is expected today with sleet, freezing rain, snow, and just plain old rain. And snow began falling in parts of Washington Saturday evening and continued overnight into Sunday. For drivers heading into higher elevations, the conditions were simply treacherous. Karina Vargas has more from Snoqualmie.
In Snoqualmie Pass, the roads are covered in snow and ice in some places. Now, while it's good news for those hitting the slopes, some drivers are taking it slow.
I keep several car lengths distance in case I do need to brake. I have that distance.
This is what Paige is trying to avoid. State Patrol send me dozens of car accidents over area highways because of the winter weather. On Snoqualmie Pass, 8 crashes. Now 17 collisions were reported in Whatcom County, 6 in Snohomish County, and 15 in Thurston and Pierce County. Now troopers said that there were minor injuries in some of the crashes, but none were fatal. People I talked to tell me they're staying cautious around other drivers.
You're going to have people like that, and it's life. You're going to have people who are aggressive and they just want to go and they want to get there, and it's like, got to watch out for the people around you, but they don't choose to do that.
WashDOT and State Patrol urge people to drive slow and keep their distance with other cars. Now, drivers like Sean Song says it's not worth putting yourself and others at risk.
Even if you have a 4-wheel drive, don't risk it. Like, it only help you speed up, but doesn't help you slow down.
And while parts of the country were dealing with ice and snowstorms, some areas in Texas were experiencing warmer weather. Joe DiCarlo noted it sparked early blooms of bluebonnets, the Texas state flower.
It is a little bit because of the weather. They've had the rain and the warm temperatures to flush them out.
Bluebonnets, the state flower of Texas, usually start popping up across the state in late March to early April. But that's not the case this year. A recent post from Enchanted Rock shows bluebonnets are starting to dot the hill country landscape once again.
You see them up and down the highways. They're absolutely beautiful. You can't beat them.
You certainly can't. They're a Texas staple.
Well, the bluebonnet photograph is a must, and all of us parents probably have a couple.
This year, they're sprouting early in spots because of recent warm temperatures. But the multi-year drought rages on. Will this affect them this season?
They're not really affected by the drought, just a nice steady rainfall or minimal rainfall, and they're able to last all season.
Through May and possibly longer if we can get enough rainfall and no extreme heat.
They also can handle cold, and even though after the freeze and after the snow, they still kept coming back.
So although the dry weather persists, bluebonnets will be here in plenty before you know it.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how honey might be the cure you need for spring allergies, and a look at how the warm winter in New England is impacting maple syrup season in Rhode Island.
A cold day across the Northeast for the day Monday. Temperatures in the teens and 20s up north, 30s down towards southern New England. But a storm system is on the way. Snow is going to develop across all of southern New England Monday night, and this slowly moves off towards the east. We're looking at most areas with snow throughout the day on Tuesday before it winds down Tuesday night. And this is what we're looking at for accumulations. We could see upwards of 6 to 12 inches in some spots.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. A dry start, but as we head through the midday hours on Monday, maybe a few showers, and that continues into the afternoon as well, and maybe up towards the Pennsylvania line, even a little bit of a mixture of snow, sleet, freezing rain, and some rain. As our next weather maker moves through, highs only in the 40s and 50s, so a cooler day and also a bit of a more unsettled day to greet us for the new week. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. It's going to be a little bit cooler up around Raleigh. We're seeing Nashville 77 degrees, 75 in Birmingham, making about 77 degrees. We're still warm down in South Florida, looking at Tampa 80 degrees, 88 in West Palm, so above normal temperatures down there. A little bit of cloud cover. A frontal boundary will continue to move through, giving us some showers across parts of Tennessee, over parts of the Carolinas as we go through the afternoon. A few strong storms and gusty storms through Atlanta, sunny in Florida.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Parts of California hammered with snow during the weekend, meaning new experiences for some furry friends. Not sure if snow was a first for Simon the horse, but he turned the snowfall into a snack. Meanwhile, a windy weekend in the Texas Panhandle. Some of those winds between 50 and 70 miles per hour. With blowing dirt, this viewer could not see a barn 100 yards away.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
With all the severe weather this past weekend, spring may seem like a long way off. The San Antonio meteorologist Chris Suchan reminds us it's almost fertilizer time.
Let's talk about all the lawn fertilizers you're going to be inundated with here as we get closer to the spring green up with your lawns. And you look at these bags and you see the three big numbers. What do they mean? Well, that's nitrogen, that is phosphorus, and that is potassium. That is leaf growth, greening. That is root growth, and that is drought, heat, disease resistance for the grass. And that's a 3 to 1 to 2 ratio here. That's what you want to look for this time of the year. Unless you're putting new seed down, then you want something that maybe is a little bit more triple balanced, like you see right here with this particular fertilizer, where you see you got a 13 to 13 to 13. Their nitrogen, phosphorus to potassium here. So that's what you should be thinking about here in the coming weeks as we get a little bit closer to April.
And it's not just fertilizer season. Like it or not, pollen season is here as well. That means allergy season is tagging along. But there could be some sweet relief. Some students who are planning to attend a local university are even getting honey ahead of the school term. Jenna Harazo spoke with a Myrtle Beach honey shop and got the buzz on how buying local honey may help with allergies.
We definitely have an increase in sales, especially in our courts, because allergy season is upon us. We get a lot of people from coastal Carolina. Actually, before they even come to school, we end up sending honey up north to a lot of parents so they can get them started on the honey before they even get here.
Bees make honey. Pollen particles from plants they've pollinated make their way into the honey.
Some of that pollen actually remains in the hive and gets into the honey. So you're actually getting little bits of the local flora when you take the honey. So cool. So it builds up in your system and then it helps with the allergies.
South Carolina is one of the worst states to live in for allergies, according to the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. Bobby Marks used to live in Tennessee and says his allergies flared up when he moved here.
I never had one allergy, and then when I moved here after a few years, all of a sudden the eyes and everything.
Millions of Americans suffer from allergies every year, experiencing symptoms like sneezing, nasal congestion, and itchy eyes.
I talk to people at work and the same thing, and they're like, where do you get your local honey? And I tell them to come here because it has to be local is what I've always heard. You can't just buy honey from the store. It needs to be local.
And over the past few weeks, we've seen how this year's weather is impacting the maple syrup season in different states. This morning, we are in Rhode Island, where Gabrielle Caracciolo explains the mild winter has syrup producers in a sticky situation.
Maple syrup season is underway across southern New England.
Out of all those taps, it all comes down to this tank.
But this year's mild winter temperatures are leaving syrup producers in a sticky situation.
We haven't collected sap in 3 days now.
In Westerly, Thomas Buck has been making syrup for more than 30 years. He says the syrup season typically lasts between 4 and 6 weeks, depending on the weather.
That's why we say there's no sugar in tomorrow. Get it done now, because as soon as the weather breaks, we're done.
In order to avoid the tap running dry, temperatures need to be above freezing during the day and below freezing at night. With fewer freezing nights this year,
the volume of sap is definitely down.
That makes it harder to turn the sap into syrup.
It's definitely a challenge. We've lost sap in the past where it was 58 degrees during the day and they're in the shade, but when we went the next day to put more sap in because we didn't have enough to start the evaporator, that sap was bad.
Despite less product and a shorter season, the quality remains high. This year, the sap's sugar content is at a desirable 2%.
The very first batch was the lightest batch I've made in a couple of years. and it was
Also in Rhode Island, volunteers have taken on a huge task, cleaning up all of those mini alcohol bottles that litter the beaches. They suggest the real way to address the problem is to put a value on the containers so they can be redeemed and kept off the beaches. RJ Heim has more.
Look at the sheer volume of empty nip bottles, hundreds and thousands of them, collected by volunteers across the Ocean State just since the end of December.
I figured out after a while that they can fit down a catch basin and make their way out into a storm drain out into the river. That's why we're finding so many of them there.
Saugatucket's 90-day Great Nip Pickup Challenge was started 2 years ago, focused just on that river's 8-mile watershed.
They make their way out through the Easter area, out to Block Island Sound. They get caught up into the environment, break down microplastics, and it goes on from there.
Just this pile right here represents 1 week's worth of these nip bottles that have been collected across the state of Rhode Island. That's about 615 of them a day.
If you just walk down the street, look at the sidewalk, you'll see them. Look at the gutter, you'll see them. Any parking lot, any beaches, anytime there's a storm, a big rack line washes up.
The problem has gotten to the point where people want to see something done. The real way to address the problem is put a value on these containers so they can be redeemed, kept off the beaches and the streets.
We are addicted to plastic in our society. We got to find a way to wean ourselves off.
Future scientists and meteorologists in Cincinnati took to the water for a fun and unique learning opportunity. And while it was a fun experience, it also helped students learn the fundamentals of engineering. Genesis Neros has more.
I mean, it's like a little kid's dream, building a cardboard boat and putting it in the pool, so I'm excited either way.
Oak Hill senior Noah McKee and his classmates from his Engineering Foundations class spent the past 3 weeks creating these cardboard boats.
It's a little nerve-wracking because I don't want to sink. I'm not a fan of swimming in pools, but it happens.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Set, go!
With lots of splashing, paddling, and classmates cheering.
Nice job.
Looks like Noah and his team didn't need the luck.
The moment we heard this project come out, we both jumped out of our seats and immediately knew we both were going to work on this. And we had a great time building it all. It's just every day coming in, building this thing, and we did not expect to win, but we knew we built a good boat.
The students take much pride in the project, and it's a chance to build something they may have never thought could be possible.
The grade isn't really based on whether or not, for example, the boat sinks or if they win the race. There are a lot of little check marks along the way. We insert a lot of principles of science. In this case, we talked about buoyancy, talked a little bit about how to be most fluid dynamic when moving through the water.
But regardless of whether students go on to major in engineering post-high school, this exploratory engineering class helps students learn hands-on problem-solving skills that'll apply to any path.
And as we head to break, we'll take to the skies over Lolo Pass in Montana.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. We have an active start to our work week. We've got rain showers likely and some storms really from Chicago through Detroit over to Columbus and into the Ohio Valley. Temperatures are still going to be pretty mild. Snow showers on the northern edge of that will bring some snow into northern Wisconsin and into Michigan. We do cool down, but we dry out as we get into your Tuesday with highs returning into the low to mid 50s.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region. Well, a lot of sunshine this morning after a weak Pacific front has moved on through. A few showers off to the east, but those continue to push eastward. We're clear. A little bit chilly up towards Amarillo, Oklahoma City after those big storms last night. Well, a nice day on the way today. Close to 70 degrees, Amarillo to Oklahoma City, 70s and 80s across Texas. Much less humidity overnight. A little bit chillier, 40s and 50s, mainly for overnight lows, 60s and 70s along the coast.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. Today, temperatures continue to be well below normal across the Midwest and the Pacific Northwest, where temperatures barely topping out 10 to 15 degrees below normal. And now a new storm tracking along the West Coast will continue to push in plenty of mountain snow through California, but also across Idaho. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, halos look awesome and also pretty. Let's take a quick trip to Charleston, West Virginia, where meteorologist Brandon Lawson has more on how they are formed.
Halos. Look at how beautiful these are. You look up in the sky and you have any kind of cirrus cloud activity up there, and you have ice crystals in those cirrus clouds. You can get these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful images here. Notice the sun in the middle and that nice, beautiful circle all around it. We call that the halo. These halos form because as you have these cirrus clouds, the ice crystals are within them, right? So the sun gives you some light, and that light is refracting off of those ice crystals all around the sun itself, and that is what can create these really unique photos. We've been seeing a lot of these here in West Virginia, and you can see them all across the country anytime you get a good little layer of cirrus clouds, ice crystals. And one other thing too, you don't just see these around the sun. At night, especially when you get a full moon, you can see those circular halos around the moon as well. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson.
And you can find us on all of your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll head back to California and see the aftermath of the storms as it heads east. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.